gentlemen, welcome back. We are here in the bag, episode, I think 108. If it's not, you'll see it in the thumbnail. But I'm here with a special bearded co-host, not my normal bearded co-host. I have Jason Collins here, longtime caller, longtime participant. How's it going, Jason?
It's going well, man. It's going well. How's it going with you, Brad?
Good. Hey, yeah. So we could have not done an episode this week, right? But Robbie's out on a much needed vacation. Him and his wife Lindsay are out enjoying the West Coast. So, we thought, hey, this is maybe a good one-off episode time, right? And I thought, Jason and I have talked a lot. I mean, we talk literally every day, pretty much, but we've talked a lot, and we're trying to improve ourselves and our ratings this year. You all know that, so I thought it might be a good opportunity for us to jump on here and maybe like debrief, if you will, a little bit. Jason's actually been playing a lot more than I have, so I think he has I don't think he has a lot of valuable insight here on kind of how he's attacking things. I thought might be important for everybody to hear. I know we have all kinds of listeners. We have folks that are, just out there playing because you love the game. And guess what? To you people, I probably admire you the most. I can't seem to just go out and play and enjoy myself. I don't know about you, Jason. I seem to always be competing with myself. So, but I think a lot of you probably are, in that MA3 or MA4 to MA2 category, probably. That's probably the majority of you listeners. And all of us, we're always trying to get better. We're trying to be competitive, whether it be just with our friend group, our internal group, or maybe we're going out and playing competitions. So maybe some insight, maybe some people speaking pretty honestly about their, bag building, how you're attacking the course, what your thoughts are, what's your mentality. I think it's going to go a long way. So, I think what I want to start with first, Jason, really is, the listeners have heard me say this a lot, and I was just curious if this is your strategy as well. But I've really tried to lock in my bag this year and not change it a ton, at least the core sections of my bag, because I just, you know how it is. We have a warehouse full of discs. We have cool discs coming in all the time. It's really hard, really hard not to grab every disc we feel and we love and just throw it straight in the bag. So I've really tried to lock in my bag. Jason, what about you? Tell me about your bag building theory, or your bag this year, since you're trying to be competitive.
It's very similar in that I'm still looking for discs to fill slots that are missing, but I'm not rotating discs that I know do well things. Like, we'll get a disc in. I'm on a big Clash kick right now, and the Cherries numbers look great, but I already have discs that essentially are 5/5 -2s, right? So I don't need that disc. As good as it feels and as good as it looks, I already know between my Origin kind of does that for me, and I go back to between my Origin and my Hex, which, if you've listened to me on this podcast before, those are ones I talk about a lot, because those are the mids that work well for me. So I have the same mentality. We'll talk about it more in this one, but ironically, this is the joke between me, Brad, and Robbie, because I was the first guest on In the Bag, and they pushed me to get an overstable fairway, the Raptor. And to this day, I still you know what? I really need more overstable disc in my bag, because I'm throwing a lot more forehand, which is fantastic. So it's still comical that even 108 episodes later, I still haven't quite got enough overstable disc, or stable, maybe not overstable, stable disc in my bag. So I'm looking for that. I grabbed a Vulture for our round today, so that I have that next level of stability that I think, because I had one of those Ledgestone ones, Edgar Allan Poe ones. I literally just put it out in the garage, so I didn't forget it for today's round. But but I long answer to a short question is, I am sticking with what I know works. The disc I talk about today, I throw the same 4 or 5 discs because they're my skill set. They match my skill set very well. At least for me, they do.
No, I think that's great. And I'm not saying that you have to keep a semi lock. I mean, everything's going to kind of ebb and flow, and I think as we progress, our bags maybe change a little bit for the courses we're trying to play. I know there's a couple discs, there may be 1 or 2 I might throw in my bag or out of my bag depending on what course I'm playing. But I think it's probably pretty important at this stage in our game to really get to know your bag. And I feel like that's maybe what I've noticed with pros, Jason. I don't know about you, but I feel like most of those pros just know their bag so well. They can tell you what every disc is going to do in every scenario and every type of wind. They just know their bag. They have this confidence.
Yep.
And I think that's really important. And that's what I'm trying to develop. And again, we're still trying to find, there's still a couple spots in my bag I'm really trying to figure out right now. I need a really flippy fairway. And I don't want it to be an FD. I originally did, so like that's a disc I'm always trying to find. But in the meantime, I'm using discs on the either side of that to really try to fill that slot for me. Um, let's talk about like your actual bag building, Jason, because like the theory, I mean, I guess the strategy I've kind of implemented over the last maybe, let's call it 12 months or so, is I really try to, and I've kind of had different variations of this. Obviously, I have my putting putters, but my throwing putters, I try to have, at one point I had very understable, neutral, slightly overstable, very overstable. And I kind of copied that template for mids, fairways, and then I really didn't have any distance drivers other than like my vultures for a little while. And now I've kind of like kept the same strategy, but now I'm going more toward like um, understable that I can kind of manipulate if I want to, neutral, slightly overstable, and then very, very overstable. So that's kind of like the template I've adapted. Tell me about your thoughts on your bag, Jason. Are you following like a similar template, or do you look at your bag like a little differently?
I used to definitely go way understable. So if you've watched, for those who've watched me and Brad's previous bag drafts, he would typically draft stable to overstable, and I'd draft stable, or I'd draft neutral to understable. But it's funny when I think about it. So I'm getting more across the spectrum now. Like I still carry an uplink, but I couldn't tell you the last time I threw an uplink. Like it's almost like I carried as a close friend because I threw it for so long. But I truly couldn't tell you the last time I threw that uplink for sure. For a super understable disc. But I carry, to answer the question, I'm still very neutral to understable for backhand stuff. I throw very little stable, truly stable things on backhand. Maybe a little bit of stability for a little finish at the end, but I throw very little stable stuff for backhand. My forehand is where I'm trying to get more and more stable things for sure. So because I have a pixel that is a dead straight to very understable disc to how you throw it that I rely on for some things. The Wizard, I throw one of our, from our subscription box, super silly soft, whatever it is, Wizard with Freddy Krueger on there, that can be very understable, but can have a little finish at the end. So it's more of a neutral to understable. But then forehand, because I had a discussion with both Robbie and you, like because I don't have great form, I keep turning my wrist over. And so that straight to slightly understable disc is still burning over. So that will be my fight in now, is to try to continue to get a disc that helps me overcome bad form to still turn out okay. Like I got to the point I was throwing my cap wrap a little bit, and we'll talk about it, that just because I kept turning over some of my forehands, again, I just need to work on it, that I would throw my cap wrap. So there's no way I could turn that thing over, right? Because I was throwing a cookie and a soda, I could flip very easy, which is funny because I don't hyzer flip on backhand at all. But on forehand, I can definitely hyzer flip, which sounds odd. But it's still I'm still neutral to understable. But I'm definitely adding more overstable stuff to the bag for that very reason.
So I think for me, you were talking about a disc that kind of unlocked something for you. Mine was obviously the lift, and now what I'm trying to, like, the lift I can push out. I throw with quite a bit of hyzer on my forehand, um, and I feel like I can push that forehand out at least 225, if not 250, sometimes further if I'm uphill, downhill, whatever, right? But I know if I walk up to a hole and it's 250 feet, I probably can get there with the forehand. But it's all hyzer the whole way. I really need like a flip up straight with fade at the end, sort of like you're talking about with the soda, right? I need something like straight. So I'm trying to find a hyzer flip uh, disc on forehand. A little harder for me because of the amount of hyzer, because it's either like too flippy or like not flippy enough. I will tell you, Jason, I did throw the Gorgon the other day from Innova, and that's another problem too. For my forehand, I have bigger hands and bigger fingers, so I can't throw like a 6-speed on forehand. I need something that's like 9 or up. And so Gorgon's 10 speed, but it's -2-1. I will say it didn't like do this crazy flip up and go straight like I wanted it to, but it definitely like wanted to. I mean, I'll describe it as it wanted to flip up, but it didn't. But it just kept the hyzer, but it wasn't fighting the whole way. It just was like kept the hyzer line the whole way and faded out. I was throwing it about 50 feet further than like a typical forehand that I would throw. And then I threw it on backhand. I love it too. So that might be my only qualm with the lift, is I only throw it on forehand, and something I like. I don't love having discs in my bag that are only for one thing. You know what I mean? So if I could, use the Gorgon and it's like a good forehand disc that kind of replaces the lift, but also is a great backhand disc, then, um, that's something I'm trying to work on. But, I think it's just interesting for people to hear what kind of discs, are helping kind of unlock that for us. Maybe you all can give it a try as well. But I think the biggest thing is just go play and go throw forehands, because they're going to be ugly at first. They're going to be really ugly. They're not going to do what you want them to do, but they will. It'll develop over time. Maybe some quicker than others, but the best advice I could give someone is probably just go throw them. You know what I mean? Like, just
Yep.
that's how you develop the confidence. Um, so we talked kind of about like discs and our bags and kind of our bag strategy. Let's talk about like strategy or prep before a tournament round. Again, there are a ton of coaches out there. We've got the best one in the land, in my opinion, Robbie C. He has a ton of videos about it, but just from our perspective, and Jason, I really want to know from you, because again, you've been playing much more than I. What's
Yep.
kind of your like pre-tournament? Let's just say you're playing a tournament. Well, you're playing the Commonwealth Games. It's like about in a month exactly, right?
Yep.
So what is your pre-tournament kind of like, I don't know, prep, if you will, training, whatever you want to call it? What does it look
Yep.
like? Maybe like 4 weeks out, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and then the week of.
Yep. So I do not throw far. I don't work on my distance. I in back of my mind. So to say that, I have comfortable accuracy in the 270 to 290 range, maybe, and not consistent accuracy. But if it's over 300, unless it's a big wide open field, I don't trust my distance accuracy, right? Which is why I don't carry anything over a 9-speed in my bag right now. So that leads into what I'm about to say, because when I think about, I'll say two things. When prepping for New London, I knew I needed to do a bunch of 250-foot shots. So I literally went and played Timbrook, which sounds backwards, but for those who played Timbrook, short course, a lot of the holes that are 120 to 250. So literally, I was just practicing the shots I was going to do at New London. It won't be too much different for the Commonwealth Games. Commonwealth Games are going to be 2 rounds at Fallen Creek Reds. So there are some longer holes I need to practice throwing longer. So I will actually just go play on the course. But the biggest thing I practice that 180 to 250 shot, forehand and backhand. When I go to Timbrook, I just literally do, for those who play Timbrook, there's a little lake. I start on hole 11, because hole 11 is 258 feet. I throw a bunch of forehand and backhand there. The next hole is like 170, forehand and backhand there. The next hole is the bomber hole, 330. But the wind always messes with you there, so it doesn't give you a fair accuracy, and then the lake is there, so it doesn't quite give you the true feeling for practicing other than just bombing it. And so that whole little lake loop literally lets me practice every shot I need to practice. What I don't do enough of, and this is going to be funny, but I don't practice putting at all. That's not a brag. That's actually a very bad thing, and you can tell it if I haven't practiced putting, that the form is just not there. The lack of consistency is there. I am very happy with my practice routine right now, for sure. Prep routine is a better statement, because we live 5 minutes from Timbrook. I can go do that 5-hole loop really quickly in like 30, 40 minutes and get out like 80 shots, right? I get plenty of shots just to practice the shots. I don't even putt on those days, because I've thrown so many shots. I just literally go pick up my disc, go to the next hole. What I need to add is putting, right? For sure. The same statement we all say, if we hit every putt within 25 feet, our ratings are going to skyrocket from where it is now. I'm an 841 rated player now, 844, something like that. If I actually hit every putt within 25 feet, so I would definitely be much closer to 9, just in general. So, but that's my practice routine is try to play the course the week of course, if I can. But in general, is working on those 120 to 280, 250 shots. What I do realize I need to do is work a little bit more on some of my shorter up shots, because I've been a little inconsistent on those lately. Like sometimes it's like, oh, great, I hit the pole. Sometimes I'm like, oh, wow, I'm 40 feet right. So what I realized this last week is that a part of my game I used to think was my best part, my super short, the 40 to 100-foot up shot, has been 50-50 lately. Like, it has been inconsistent and has been frustrating for me. So I need to practice on that, because I love my Berg, but I've had a few where I've stalled out, nosed up, or whatnot. So I really need to practice that a little bit more before the Commonwealth Games next month.
Yeah, because I'd agree with that, and I think that, I mean, it's definitely shown, and some people call it and I'm not saying this to Jason, it's just like a term, but old man golf, right? 200-foot shot, 200-foot shot, 200-foot shot, and just like placement game is really what people are meaning when they say that term. And definitely at a course like New London, you're still competitive like that. Like you played I played with you one round there, and I would say you were very competitive there, and you probably played the best I've seen you play maybe ever. But I think all those shots gave you a lot of confidence with your discs, right? You just like knew what they were going to do. And more importantly, you knew where they were going to go and where they were going to land and how they're going to react on the ground, etc. Right? So
Right.
I think that can help you really be competitive on any course like that in our divisions, right? Not you can't go on
Right.
MPO and do that. You got to like really get score out there. But for us, it was like, a course. It's going to be the tale of two cities, right? New London like tournament rounds versus Falling Creek tournament rounds, right? New London is like survive, right? Like how few out of bounds strokes can I get? How few bogeys or double bogeys can I get? Versus Falling Creek Red, it's going to be like you're going to have to like score and Falling Creek, even in MA4, MA3, you're going to have to score on at that course because
Yep.
there's a lot of holes that are very birdieable, and there's a lot of holes there's a couple holes that are like you can mess up, right? But you have to make sure
Yep.
you do those placement shots to make sure you par out or maybe give yourself a look for birdie. Something interesting to point out too between those two rounds, New London's like a monster, right? The round we played were long, so World's Preview. You've played longs, you've played FPO Worlds, you've played shorts, like you've played all those. No matter what variation, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yep.
It's a long course, right? That's
Yep.
but it's still one round of endurance, right? That's one round per day, one round in the morning or whatever. Um, Going into Falling Creek in a month, it's going to be 2 rounds. Yes, it's not as demanding of a course per se. You're not going to be throwing as many shots per round, but you are going to be throwing more shots total for the day. And Falling
Yep.
Creek's a beautiful course, easy, right? Easy walking. It's still a long, like physically long course, right? It's, walking a long way. There's elevation change. How are you prepping for that? It's going to be a whole different game, right? It's going to be scoreable, but yet you're going to play 2 rounds. What is your headspace going into that?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Because of 2 things about that. In the last year, in 3 different tournaments that were 2-round tournaments, same course, I was on the lead. I was leading after the first round and lost in the second round. Right, two rounds in the same day. My best guess, my best analysis was that essentially it was fitness. Right, It sounds silly, but it was true fitness. I am definitely overweight and out of shape from where I need to be, and so it's as odd as it sounds, it's not disc golf related. But I'm going to try to work on my fitness over the next month because I know I've had 3 different leads going into the second round and lost all 3, which is just crushing. And so part of that will absolutely be trying to just work on fitness, right? Trying to work on being able to have that stamina for the full day. The second thing I realized a couple of tournaments ago that I don't have an answer for yet, but I'm trying to figure it out. And Robbie said some suggestions was and those who play me know I play fast, very fast. But it's because I realized I'm a rhythm player, and that sounds odd, but I get into the rhythm of playing and I play. I get into the rhythm of playing, I play. Anyone who's played tournaments know it's very hard to play rhythm in tournaments that are packed because you're going to a hole and you're waiting, and you're going through a shot and you're waiting. So I have to figure out what to keep me engaged and not tight, like keep me loose, so like even in a tournament I'm walking around all the time. So I don't have an answer for that, but I'm trying to work on, if I'm waiting for the tee in front of me, if I'm waiting for the guys to throw in front of us, what can I do to stay engaged so I don't kind of fall out of my rhythm?
Right.
Robbie's had some suggestions for it as well. Like he's even suggested the thing Eagle does, the little ball and stick thing, just to stay engaged mentally and physically.
Okay.
The idea is there, right? To stay engaged physically and mentally and not space out, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm working on that for sure. As well as make sure I have the right nutrition. But it's the fitness in general for those 2-round tournaments, because that's already on my mind. Ironically, though, what's funny, those 3 tournaments I did bad in, but my best round ever was Commonwealth Games last year, and it was round 2. So like last year, my both lowest rated round and highest rated round were the same tournament in the same day. And so I don't know what happened. I think I played so bad in the morning, I just didn't care in the afternoon. And when you don't worry,
Mm-hmm.
everything just flows, right? When you literally just get up we were the very, like, I was second to last and ended up having the hot round the day on that day, because I just kind of like, oh, we're just having fun,
Yeah.
And we ended up, because where we teed off, we had no one in front of us too. And truthfully, it helped that I had no one in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a cart of 3. And so that it was a rhythm thing that day as well. So I was trying to figure out how I can maintain my rhythm while I'm playing in tournament golf, which we all have to deal with tournament golf. It slows down. So so if anybody has suggestions, feel free to comment below how they stay engaged and not kind of zone out during tournament play.
Yeah. I think it's a great, because I wouldn't necessarily call myself a rhythm player, but I don't like to get cold, if that makes sense. I don't like to set, like, that's why tournaments do drive me nuts. Thankfully, I've had this a ton in the tournaments I have played, but there was one where, you go up to a tee and you wait for like 15, 20 minutes. Common thing, right? It's just common. It just happens. And I don't like, for me, like, I don't like my shoulder to get cold, because that's when I feel like I start grip locking as soon as that happens. So that's great. So I think the next part I want to talk about is really like during the round. I'll kind of talk about this with you as well, just from my mindset. But again, you're going to have some more insight because you are playing different rounds, maybe different strategies, that sort of thing. But, for me, I like to go in, I like to like visualize, okay, we're playing New London Longs. Before we go into the tournament, I'm just kind of quickly, multiple days in a row, visualizing, okay, here's the course, hole 1. What's my play on hole 1? Am I taking a bogey on hole 1? And also we talked about it ad nauseum with New London. All right, we want to shoot less than 30 under par for the round on longs. How do we do it? Where are our birdies? Where are our pars? Are there any birdies? Where do I just like want double bogey? You know what I mean? It's just like it's a chess game as far as like that different type of course, right? Going into a Fallen Creek Reds, I'm going to think, okay, what are my scoring holes? What are my like play safe, get a par hole, that sort of thing. We all know when you get on the course and you're playing the round, for me, this is where I get in trouble. Something inside me, maybe it's confidence, maybe it's delusion, maybe it's a little bit of both, but I get into the round and I really have to fight mentally with myself to stick to my game plan. Because I think where I get in trouble is like maybe I did this at New London, and I think it kind of like paid off in the end because I played a good round. But in my opinion, I played a good round for what I wanted to play. But hole 1, I'm like, easy par hole for me. I can even get a birdie if I want to, even from longs. I know I can do it. I've done it before. And I got a bogey on hole 1. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, got to play catch up now. And then I had to find myself and say, no, you don't. Just keep with the plan. Your plan is to have like above a bogey average, slightly above a bogey average. So you got a bogey, you're doing your thing, maybe don't take a stupid obese stroke on hole 6 and then you're already good. So what about you, Jason? You've played New London a bunch, which is for amateur players, I think New London is a strategy course. It's just, how do you survive? So what do you think? How do you find yourself during your round? Like, do you find yourself like having a game plan? Or are you like more free flow and just like, I have a goal in mind and just want to stay within that goal? Like, when you're in the round, how do you stay in the round, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah. Great question. I want to step back, and you mentioned something before about another thing I didn't mention about prep, and you kind of highlighted it, but I literally, before I go to bed at night, I will often play the course in my mind to prep for it. So another aspect of prep is literally, because I played New London so many times now, I know exactly what I should do.
Yeah.
And so that leads to the next question, because I know what I should do, even if I get off track during the day, even if I get off track, I tend to stay in the moment for knowing what I should do, right?
Yeah.
Even if hole 1, it used to be a spear, but now it's a jackalope, ride the right side, hit in the middle, berg up, right? Well, if I go too far right, okay, maybe it's still a berg. If I kick way left, okay, it's get back to the fairway and get back to what the plan is for that hole, because I've played that hole so much in my head that I have a good idea for those. Definitely the first 9, because I played them. I've done the 8-hole loop 1 through 6 and 17, 18 so many times that I know those almost like the back of my hand. And so I mentally play those beforehand. And during the day, I'm pretty good in tournament play and in competitive rounds to just play, okay, I'm playing for the rounds and not for the glory, right? People, I'm playing for the glory. Okay, well, I'm playing to win, to be honest. I'm playing to shoot well, right? So I rarely fall into that trap, you know, when it's our weekly or when it's especially when it's a sanctioned round. Now I forget that. I may get frustrated, which is two different things. Like I had I had on the last time I played New London this past weekend, and I blew up on hole 16 and hit 4 trees in a row. And I should have stopped, and I just wasn't thinking. And so sometimes me not thinking is the best way I play disc golf and the best way I play sports. Like I used to joke with Elizabeth, like when I played softball, I literally just didn't think.
Yeah.
I could hit. Softball is very easy to play if you're a good athlete. I was a very good hitter in softball. Slow pitch softball, if you're a good athlete, it's actually very easy to play. But I was a very good hitter in softball. People are like, what do you think about it? I was like, I literally don't think about anything when I'm batting. I watch the ball and I hit it. That sounds silly. So usually when I'm playing well in disc golf, it's the rhythm. Like I'm not thinking about it. Like, yeah, I think for a second, okay, backhand, okay, let's go do it, right? But in the moment of blowing up on hole 16, I fell out of that don't think. And I just, okay, I started overthinking it. And so when I'm overthinking, I was over pulling because I went left and I was so far left, I had to do a forehand, but then I did a forehand and pulled it left again.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so far left, I have to do a forehand. Okay. So, and that hole, I literally almost cried because I was like, holy crap. I'd been looking at the score, had a chance to take the W. It was only 3 people in my division, let's be clear, you know? So I was like, I had a chance to take the W. I was like, I just lost the win because I blew up on this hole and took a quadruple on a hole I've never done worse than bogey. I took an 8 on a hole, I took a 7 on a hole I've never got worse than 4 on.
Yeah.
That's a long way of saying, like, in general, I do well. I don't get aggressive because I just don't have the aggressive skills. I don't have that mentality necessarily most of the time, especially in round play. But on that hole, I kind of just fell apart mentally and didn't step back. Okay, just dump it out in the fairway. Go back to my point earlier. Like on other holes, if I get off the fairway, I jump it back to the fairway and get back to my game plan. That one, I think I was being I think I was trying to be aggressive, and I wasn't really thinking about it. So I should just dump it to the fairway, be wide open to the basket relatively on hole 16, easily go forehand and take my double instead of my quadruple. So in general, I do well. That hole, I definitely fell off of, hey, take it, be a grown up, take your extra strokes as opposed to taking way too many extra strokes.
Yeah, I think it's funny. You've played with me enough. I don't get frustrated too often. I'll maybe like, oh, come on, of course it's like that. But I don't get like really frustrated too often. But I think I also I think I have more skills than I do. I think I'll just say it. Like that's just, you know,
confidence is not a bad thing. Let's be clear. Like confidence is a very good thing.
Yeah, and I think it comes from like I'm not going to step up to a hole and be like, okay, today, I can throw 400 feet. No, I can't. I've thrown a few 400 feet on a accident. You know, perfect scenario, perfect disc, perfect release. But I'm never going to think I can throw that. But it's more of like, okay, I'm slightly off the fairway. I know I can get the forehand there when it's clearly like a backhand layup. Take your medicine, take an extra stroke, and I try not to do that in New London. I did a pretty okay job. I did it a few times and had to catch myself, but it's more of like, okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I will oftentimes like want to go for the 10% chance shot versus the 60% chance shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because I can do it, but maybe 10% of the time. So I think those are all things between what you and I said, stuff we need to like look out for. You know what I mean? When anyone's playing a tournament round, it's something I'm always fighting against. I know something you're always fighting against. Yes, I know for sure you're good at keeping your plan, which I think is great. So when do you find yourself, or if do you ever find yourself during the round? Is there a tipping point for you when you start to say when do you say abandon the plan? When do you say stick to the plan, or do you always stick to the plan?
It's in a competitive round. I try to stick to the plan. If I can be intentional, I'm sticking to the plan and just trying to, trying to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
So
So like on a whole,
but sometimes,
sorry,
but sometimes I had because it was one of the tournaments I played where I was leading, and we went from reds to yellow at Fallen Creek, and I didn't necessarily expect to win because I only had a couple strokes lead on red, and I knew yellow, okay, maybe I can stay okay. But I blew up like the worst I've ever blown up in a round in my life. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. Yeah. And at that point, the only time and I think I texted both you and Robbie different times, said I literally gave up halfway through halfway through the round, I was playing so bad and I couldn't overcome it. And so that's one time I was like, okay, I'll never give up again. I was still respectful to my fellow players. I
Yeah.
wasn't like, but they could tell I was they had played with me. It was the same card because I think it's the same four of us for MA4. We had played together in the morning. So they had seen me play. I shot like 600 in the morning or 700 in the morning, had a great round at Falling Creek Red, and then blew up, shot like 22 over at Yellows. At my worst, I should be not 22 over. Obviously, I was. But if I'm my middle third, I'm maybe 12 or 13 over. It was bad. So I gave up. I was like, I don't know. Even in hindsight, I don't know what I could have done differently because I don't know how I could have got my mind space back to this sucks. Like I'm miserable. I'm missing putts that I normally hit. I'm shanking everything. It wasn't that. I like to use the term every once in a while I'm slightly off. Like we've all had that round where we're throwing good, but everything's like 3 inches right or 3 inches left.
Yeah.
That wasn't that day. It was like a foot right or a foot left. Everything wasn't slightly off. It was just all off. So even on the bad rounds of the other ones, I try to stick to the game plan. It's hard not to be emotional and let that overcome it. That one specific round, I mentally gave up and I was like, okay, whatever. Like this sucks. This stinks. So
yeah,
it's a game. It's a part of my game I'm working on for sure.
Yeah, and I think maybe if I rephrase the question a little bit, I think you probably agree with this, but I think there's a point in maybe I don't know. Of course, New London's a little different, but if I'm playing around, even if it's a weekly or whatever, and because I mean, when you've played courses enough, you kind of know what you throw, you kind of know how to attack it, right? And usually that's very disc dependent. And some days, like you're saying, some days discs just don't fly like they normally do for you, or you're slightly off. I think for me, probably if I'm 5 or 6 holes in and I've thrown, let's just say my zone, I'm not having a hot zone day, right? I'm just what the heck is going on with my forehand approaches? I'm probably only 5 holes in before I abandon that and say, okay, well, I obviously just switch up how I'm playing today. You know what I mean? Or maybe the backhand's completely off that day, and I'm like, call me forehand guy today because that's all I'm doing. So I think that's kind of where I am. I think it's more, I'm saying disc dependent for me. It's not the disc's fault; it's my fault. But I'm just saying switching up what disc I'm relying on. Maybe because typically at Timbrook, for instance, I'll throw, or no, I'll say New London. This is a good example. At New London, I started off with my FD because I'm like, okay, FDs are going to be the way to go here. This was during the prep of the tournament, and I just couldn't throw them the day before or whatever, and I relied on the hex heavily. Again, it's a mid range. I'm not throwing it as far, but again, it's a placement thing. So I think just even the day before, I might switch it up. But just feeling out your discs and what you're relying on, what's feeling good, and what you're throwing well.
I will say, to answer that question, that's why I carry. I'm a big mid range guy anyway, but the reason I carry the Origin, the Robbie C Origin that he gave me, or that we had in one of our videos a long time ago, as well as a Hex, is for basically the same reason. They both essentially do the same thing, but I'm an Origin first. But if for some reason I'm not throwing the Origin the way I want to throw it, or it's not flying the way it will, the Hex is in there for that reason. And that's why the Pixel's there. The Pixel is my backup to my Wizard, which sounds odd, but my Wizard's super straight and is a good touch shot. But if I've yet to have a day the Wizard's not there, but if the Wizard's not there, I had the same confidence in the Pixel. So I do have those discs that if it's just not working that day, I have the backup. I don't have that for any of my fairways yet. So that's another thing to work on. Again, getting a variety of fairways in there will give me that ability. Now that the Jackalope's back in there, even though they're different numbers, the Jackalope and Soda are similar to each other and how they fly for me and how they work for me. So they'll be kind of the backups to each other.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And we've kind of already touched on it. This is in the bag. We talk about discs. If it's good, we keep it in our bag, right? But I'll kind of let you have the floor here. But you kind of already said it. What discs do you really find, no matter what the round is, no matter what course you're playing, in a competitive round, you're like, I'm leaning on these discs. Maybe give me one of each category: putter, mid, fairway, and if there's any drivers, you can give me a couple mids if you want to, whatever. But what discs are your go-to old trusty standby discs that you're always relying on?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to give two. Like, I'm going to go and break the rules a little bit because they're two slightly different things. But I throw the Berg a ton right now. It's I bought it before I was at Foundation, but it's an infinite run Eric Oakley one that's not super stable and can be great, very straight, but has a little bit of finish. I'm loving the daylights out of that thing. Finally threw it in at the FPO round I did at New London a couple weeks ago. I got a birdie on 5 with a throw in.
Great.
Like,
Yeah.
I kept people who played with me knew like I was getting so close to throwing that disc in. I even did it on one of Robbie's videos, almost throw it in. So that's there. And then the Wizard, I've referenced it before. But the Berg, glide as a lie, is a relatively true statement. It doesn't go very far, but it's great for what I need it to be. My Wizard's my next level of that I can throw. I don't forehand the Wizard at all, though I have messed around with it and it's okay, but I have very reliability with what that Wizard's going to do.
You are dangerous. You're dangerous with the Wizard. I will say that.
I'm loving the Wizard. It has replaced what the Envy was for me. And I realized that in the last couple of months that I was an Envy guy hardcore when I came to Foundation 2 years ago because I just loved it. But the Wizard now does what the Envy was doing for me at that time because I'd beat in Electron Envies that weren't really stable. And the Wizard, I've realized, it sounds odd, but I throw it much better on standstill. It's like so to step back, one thing I realized during a round, if I'm slightly off, if I go to standstill, it cleans it up very quickly because I have less, because I'm old, I'm tired. That walk up starts messing with my form. Whereas if I'm standing still, it forces me to have a better form. So that's another thing I'm trying to remind myself that if it's clear that I'm slightly off, I need to do standstill. And then it comes up the Origin. I've already referenced the Origin. I could throw the Origin all day long. Love it for sure. Yes. It will never leave the bag. Each time it gets out from the woods at New London because I missed through it, I start almost crying because I need to find that disc. Like I will not lose. If there's 2 discs I don't want to ever lose, it's the Origin and then my Aura Jackalope that just went back in the bag. It'd been out of the bag for a little while, and from the very first throw, I didn't even throw it on the driving range. Still in hole 1, I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a great day. And I love the Jackalope so much. Forehand, backhand, Hyzer, Annie, flat, it does it all. So those are my, and I don't go with thing. There's nothing higher than that. I would say maybe the Raptor, right? Because it's a functional disc that I don't throw enough, but when I throw it is great. So that's the 9-speed. That would be that next level up. Nothing higher than 9-speed for me.
Yeah.
What about you? What are the ones that you're relying on right now?
So obviously I always rely on my Envies, right? I think I found a very like straight one that I'm relying on a ton. Obviously my zone, there's no surprise there. I'm really loving my Fission Hex lately. Like I feel like I can it's just like a dart. Like I can just put it where I want to. You know what I mean? Yep. That's when I threw at New London a lot. Obviously my FDs, specifically my orange one that like has a nice Hyzer flip that'll sit. Love that. And I'm really loving the Strive right now. There is no distance driver that I've ever felt like I could throw as well as I can throw the Strive. And it like noticeably gives me more distance. It's like maybe the first distance driver that I feel, because usually I'll just use like my Vultures, for example. I don't throw them any farther than my FDs, but it does different things. Like it's more of like how it's flying, how it's reacting on the ground. That's why I love the Vulture. And I also can scramble with it and throw overhands with it. That's why I have that. But the Strive is the first disc I really feel like I can actually throw farther at because it's a distance driver. It feels great in my hand. I love that I think it's either 12 or 13. I think it's a 12. But I noticeably can throw it farther. I don't know what it is about it. And it's one of those, I won't throw it like precision. Like it's not like I'm going to cut up like a distance line with it. But if I'm out in a field and I need to get max distance, I'm throwing that every time. I'm kind of Trevoring it a little bit. Like I'm almost purposely like giving it a little like pull through Annie to let it like get a full flight out of it. So those are kind of the ones I'm relying on right now. Again, I'm really trying the places I'm missing. You were talking about your standstill, like upshot sort of thing, or just like a standstill, like that's a disc like at New London. That's a disc I really felt like I was missing, was just like something I can trust on, just like a standstill backhand approach, almost like 150 foot in, 100 feet in. Like that's what I'm really missing. And I'm missing that flip up, like fairway or, distance driver for my forehand. So, I'll take suggestions too. Anybody like, actually Corey, from Unfinished Business, DM me and he was like, you were an Era guy. You need to try the Era on forehand. And I don't know why I never thought of that. So I might give that a try too. I think that's an interesting especially that F2, like that first like factory second run, that red one, definitely more flippy than the other ones. So I might give that one a try too. But I'm loving the Gorgon. Maybe the Gorgon will stay. Speaking of good discs that we need to put in our bag, Jason, as always, I love to give you the honorary guest privilege of tell us what's new in the warehouse this week.
We had a bunch of fun stuff for sure. Going back to you said it earlier, and like when I first started, and it hits me today. When I first started Foundation, I actually went months without getting new discs because I got to play with discs all the time. And then I went for a long time getting a ton of new discs. But now I'm like, I think I only get discs now if they're like Foundation stamped ones or cool ones because I just have so many. Like, okay, of course I want the Thunderbird because I kind of want to throw a Thunderbird because Hunter loves a Thunderbird. But so I don't get too many other new ones. But man, this week was tough because I throw the Berg and Stacy Ronsley's, I think it's a K1 Hard Berg X that feels great. K1 Hard. I don't think we've had K1 Hard plastic before, and it feels amazing because I love K1, but sometimes K1 can be a little too soft. K1 Hard feels like it's awesome. Like it feels so good.
It does.
We also have a K1 Hard Lutes or Lots, however you call it. Joseph Anderson. We have the Gorgon. We already talked about Gorgon. Is that my Southern coming out? Gorgon. The Gorgon coming out. 4 different plastics for the Gorgon. Star, G Star. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Pro, and then
G Star. You said G Star, Star, Pro.
It's three plastics, but Star has 2 stamps. Sorry, Star has the founder stamp or original stamp, whatever it's called. So 3 plastics. So we have those. We had a couple more stones hit the site. We have the DD hit as well as the MD5, the Mind Stone, and the Cold Stone, no, Cryo Stone, and then the Spore is back. Prototype Spore. They feel really cool. They're very rounded. People like when we had the Spore before, they sold out so fast. The Spore's on the site right now. Ella Hansen's Showstopper 2 came out, which is a Color Glow FD, I believe. And
that might make the bag. That might make the bag.
It feels really cool for sure. I'll save the best for last. The video just dropped, so we're recording this on Thursday. The video just dropped yesterday. The Get Freaky XL Minis. I watched it while I was on the treadmill this morning. Super great round. I want to go. You and I need to go do an XL Mini round because it looks so fun for sure. And then we have Robbie C Wizards. We're back in stock.
Boom.
By the time this video drops. We have Conman Sean Mans. We'll be back in stock.
Got it.
And another disc I think people are going to love because it looks so cool. The Staub Mob Zone OS will be on site as well. The stamp Brad's showing you right now looks so cool. I love it.
One of my favorites.
I was happy with the Zone OS, but these feel great. Like I'm not a big Zone guy, but the Zone OS is just a little bit more thickness in my hand. It feels well. So are we doing that's all I have. Is there other stuff I missed, Brad?
What about these guys?
Oh yeah. I teed that up for you, brother.
Yeah, right.
So the in the bag zones, both Z and Jawbreaker. Big fan of Jawbreaker. Love Jawbreaker. Those look great. I didn't take one because we need y'all to have one, but I love Jawbreaker zones for sure. So
and listen, I'm calling out to all my in the bag zone homies right now. Calling out to you. This is the bat signal, the in the bag signal, if you will. We are in a contest, whether you believe it or not. Team Zone versus Team Pig. We have if it's a good stamp on these zones, we have a good stamp on these pigs. Listen, we need to show the pig farmers what's up. We got to get in the zone with the zone. We've got to sell these puppies out and we got to just show Robbie what team he should be on. So this is a call. This is a call. I've got my, I'm picturing like Lord of the Rings, like that big horn in Helm's Deep, you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm blowing right now for the zone throwers. We got Z Jawbreaker, a bunch of different colors. Sorry, Z Jawbreaker, a bunch of different colors, and we have Z as well. Make sure you check those out. They're going live. One other thing I want to point out is this is Thursday. When you're listening to this, you probably already missed it. I'm sorry, but there's going to be many more of these. Foundation has an app now, guys. You go to the Apple Store, you go to whatever Android's version of that is, the Google whatever. I'm
Google
sorry,
Play?
Android people. Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, the Google Store or whatever. Android Store. I don't know. You Android people figure it out. It's there. So you can download it. It's free to download. Couple things I love about it. Number one, I love everything about it. Number two, I love that you can make your own wish list in there. So you can go in as you're shopping, maybe there's stuff that you like. You're like, man, that's good. I do want to keep it in my bag. But maybe not today. Maybe it's on the budget. Maybe I'm just waiting. Maybe I'm just like thinking about it as I'm hearing about discs. Me and my buddy are talking. I just want to write it down. I want to keep track of it. Keep it right in the app. That's where you're gonna purchase it anyway. You can keep your wish list there. You can kind of build your own bag. Maybe you're rebuilding your bag. That's all there. The best part is we're working on a feature where you can kind of share it like an Amazon wish list. So eventually that feature is going to be there where you can like share it out with people. But in the meantime, you can screenshot it and send it to them anyway. If you're looking for like birthday gifts, whatever, like that's a great place to share that. Number 2, I love that you can access everything there. You can access obviously the online store. You can access all of the podcasts. You can access YouTube videos. All the new and upcoming things are going to be in there. You can just go in one place and it's all there. Number 3, now it's very so easy now to access your reward points. If you're not using our birdie points, our birdie coin system right now, you're missing out because every purchase you make, as long as you're signed in, it gets your rewards points back that you can cash in for, $5 off, $10 off, $20 off, $50 off of your purchase. And now in the app, there's one button and you can check your balance. It's right there for you. So easy to use, easily accessible. And the 4th thing I like is we're going to be able to go live in this app. It's not like on Instagram, it's not on Facebook, it's not on YouTube. We can go live straight in the app, and all of you that have the app, we can specifically call out to you and do special things there. Like we're doing this Friday. It already happened if you're listening to this podcast. We're going live. We're going to release some of the stuff early so people can have access to it. We're going to push out special deals to the app. There's going to be app only savings this weekend. So make sure you check it out. It's a great thing. It's going to be everything you love all in one place. And we just thank you seriously for being in a place where we feel like we need something like this so we can add extra touch points to our fans and customers. We just make it easy for you because you all love to consume what we have, and we're very grateful for that. So one final thing I want to plug before we jump off here, Jason, is our die box. That was this week's subscription box, the Birdie or Die box. I don't have the stamps. We had 2 custom stamps, another all white end of a disc. We teamed up with Dyer's Guild, and it teaches you how to die and has everything you need in it to die discs. And all the discs in the box this month are dyeable. So it was very easy, something fun, something that I always wanted to do, but never really wanted to piece together all the information and stuff, right? Here's an example just for fun. And here's the thing, you have enough in there to dye disc, but if you have discs you want to dye in your own collection, you can do it there too. But here's one of these new Liberty discs we got in, and check out that dye. I just use the stuff from our dye box to dye it. Pretty sweet. And that's the first disc I've ever dyed right here. History in the making. But very fun. So we do have a few of those left. You only have a few days to take advantage of that. But if you do order it before the end of the month, you will get this month's box. But the best news is you'll be subscribed and you'll be able to get July's box, which is going to be also a banger. We're really leaning into the patriotic theme for that one. So right now is a great time. You're going to get an awesome box backed by an awesome box. And guess what? More awesome boxes for the rest of the year. So make sure you check those out. Jason, thanks again for being on. You've been a guest many times now. You're like, if this is a Joe Rogan experience, you're Jamie at this point. You're our go-to. You're the extra personality. We appreciate you. And I want to give you a chance. There's something behind you that I'd like to give you a chance to plug. Tell us what else you do. You love disc golf, but there's maybe only one thing you love more than disc golf. Tell us about that and tell us what you and Robbie do if people don't know about it yet.
Yeah. Well, I do love my wife, family, and God more than disc golf. So there are probably a few things, but I know what you meant.
Those are
Brad.
obvious.
I appreciate
those
that.
Are on their own separate tier.
I agree. Those are obvious. It goes without saying those go up there. But for those who are visual viewers of In the Bag, and you may recognize where I'm at already. Robbie and I have a podcast called Bards of the Board, in which we talk about board games, really focused on similar to In the Bag. It literally was inspired by In the Bag in a way, in Robbie's way of doing things, because Robbie's very much about the newer players, beginning players, helping folks get into the game of disc golf. Well, Bards of the Board is very similar. Our game reviews and discussions are focused on newer players and beginner players, board game players.
Yeah.
You can be an experienced player and learn something about a game you have never played before. We've had people reach out to us for that. But we also have folks who are brand new players and who are disc golfers, followed Robbie to this and got into board gaming for that. So we have a podcast that drops every 2 weeks. Ours drops this afternoon, but today's Thursday, so we're already dropped. Looked up Bards of the Board on Instagram or YouTube. This week, I can say it's not a big spoiler, but we're talking about Patchwork, a 2-player polyomino game. So if you like Tetris-style games where you're putting pieces together, Patchwork is your kind of game. But give us a follow, go check it out. We're going to slowly start putting some more individual game reviews on there. They're different than the podcast. It's purely podcast now, but like Into a Bag channel, we're going to start having some other content on there as well. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. So make sure you check it out. And I will say, after I met Jason, he was obviously talking about board games and hobby gaming and things like that. And I was like, well, I feel like I play like Monopoly and Life and Risk and things like that. Like I'm a gamer. I've played Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic the Gathering. Yeah, I'm a gamer too. Guess what? If you're like me, you're not. You have no idea of the world that is out there. He's introduced me and my family to so many games that we love. Wingspan being probably our household's like favorite. We play it so much now, Jason, that my niece and nephew Sarah and Brinkley got us a very nice, I guess, it holds all the cards and pieces, like one of those really nice milled wood sets that look like a decoration.
Okay, yep.
And it sits on our table. It sits on our dining room table at all times because we're just like,
that's awesome.
Hey, especially Kimberly is she just loves it. I love it too. Don't get me wrong, but she loves it. But you've introduced us so many good games. So make sure you check out their podcast. It is great. And if you love games and you want to get off the screens a little bit, like for me and my family, we just want to get off the screens a little bit and spend some quality time. What a great way to do it. So whether it's a board game, whether it's a disc, whether it's an accessory, if it's good, what do?
Keep it in the bag.
And we'll see you all next week for episode 10 something.